As the leader of SFE, what has been your biggest lesson you've learned in the last 2 weeks? We're jumping right in.
It's a combination of a few things, but the biggest lesson that I've learned when it comes to managing people is to hire slow and fire faster. There is a depth of knowing, and from a lot of my mentors that I've had in my life, they've said something quite similar, which is at the point in which you know that you need to let someone go, they say to do it. And that's been a primary lesson of mine. A saying that I've had and a thought that I've had is I give people enough rope to hang themselves or help themselves, and it's up to them what they do with it. And that's a part of my thesis on running a business that has mentors and not managers. There is a piece of managing expectations and outcomes to have consistency in client delivery, but we have to mentor people through that. But some people cannot be mentored up, and that's reality. And so I like dealing with reality. And one of the things that's been a coach of mine told me just last week was, there's two primary things that every single person on your team has to have. They have to have willingness and they have to have integrity. If they don't have both, they'll never survive in an organization that is run by you. And willingness is not only the willingness to do the work when it's easy, when it's hard, when it's fun, when it's not, but it's also the integrity, which is doing the right thing, following through on your word, and your word is your bond. Ensuring that you're showing up in a business as somebody who is trustworthy, who doesn't just have skill and talent. Like skill and talent, it's great, but you look at any industry, it doesn't matter if it's music or it's sports, if it's entrepreneurship, if it's business, there are a lot of talented people. But I see more people with talent waste it, and secondarily, people with talent who don't have the character to back it up. I have seen too many people with a crazy amount of talent either waste it, not understand that they have it and that it's a gift to someone else, or they don't have the character to back it up. And so they lose opportunities that could be life-changing for them. So those are some of the things that I learned, but I learned a very valuable lesson in mentorship and leadership of giving people opportunity, but also knowing that sometimes you want what's best for them more than they want it for themselves.
Why is integrity so important to you? Where does that come from? What's the genesis of that? Because it's clearly more than just a business principle.
It's funny, every time I've sat to do my values, like personal values or company values, there's two things that always come up: honesty and integrity. Every single time, it doesn't matter if it's just me personally and I'm thinking about the things that I value and I want to instill in my kids or that I want to represent, or if about companies I want to be a part of and their values are the ones that I lead and what our values are. But honesty and integrity always pop. The integrity piece is really important because I've held myself to a really high standard of excellence when it comes to my work. I've wanted those things to transcend into every other area of my life, but I'm a human being and people are imperfect. I always say 95% is 100% because there's always human error. You're going to make mistakes. Things are going to slip through the cracks. But personal responsibility is the closest tie-in with integrity of owning things personally. You'll never outgrow your professional development unless you work on your personal development. You have to be a person who has the character and the competence in order to create a contribution that's meaningful. My father probably instilled it in me. My grandfather, I learned business from my grandfather. When I was born, he was probably 70. So I grew up around a everyday entrepreneur, my grandfather, who owned businesses for 50 years, and I learned business from him. So it's just given to me on a fundamental level. My worldview, in part from my faith foundation, the way that I was raised, is from that as well. I've just learned that if I want to succeed at anything in life, it's going to come down to the decisions that I personally make. If those are not in alignment, meaning they're the right thing for me to do, it's the right thing I should be focusing on, it's something that gives me energy, it's something that returns energy to me, that's positive, that's fun, that lights me up. Integrity has multiple different shades, but it's doing the thing that's right when no one's watching. And it's also holding boundaries that are really clear. When the value of integrity is absent, I have a gigantic question mark as to why. Why would I participate? Why would I do it? Why would I invest in it? Why would I befriend that person? Why would I trust that person? To me, it just completely annihilates the purpose and the intent of whatever it is that I'm doing.
That makes a lot of sense. So as you're thinking about this, as you're thinking about SFE and all the things that are going on for you, how do you as a business owner go about building a team that works with you, that works for you?
I hire for culture first. And to be culture is, if I don't know someone yet, it's personal integrity. It's the way they carry themselves. It's their vibe. I hire for all the soft stuff way more than the hard stuff. They wouldn't get a call with me if they didn't have the hard stuff. I have to know that the competence and the skill set exists, whether it's operational, creative, administrative, or executive. I'll ensure that I'm talking to somebody who's qualified based on competency and skill set. But beyond that, it's going to come down to culture, which is how they're going to gel with the team, how they're going to gel with me. You know, I have a very unique style of leadership that's pretty hands off, that trusts a lot. Unless the trust isn't there, then I have to micromanage, and I hate doing that shit. So when I'm building teams, I'm focused on more than anything is energy. The way that someone chooses to show up, how they carry themselves. And I look for the cornerstones and bedrock stories inside of their personal experiences. I do it on a casual basis for illumination. I want to know them as a human. That's more important than knowing them as a marketer, administrative assistant, or a project manager. I want to know their character. I want to know who they are, what they believe, what they care about, what motivates them, what drives them, what inspires them. I always look for common ground and shared experience. You know, my background in ministry allowed me to understand that you can have battle buddies. People who, if you've gone through similar things, there's a common bond there that's very hard to recalibrate and re-engineer, where you don't have shared values or shared experiences with someone. Think about your relationships. The most treasured relationships you typically have, and the most intimate, meaning the closest, the proximity into, like intimacy, into me you see. Like that transparency of the heart only comes when you're like, this person carries something that I carry, whether it's a wound or a wind, it doesn't matter. It's like there's something there at the foundational level that creates that common bond and connection for other people. So that's what I look for. I look for genuine, good-hearted people who want to do things that are meaningful, and I do my damnedest to give them opportunity to do it.
That's awesome. So you talked about energy in there. Oh yeah, we're going to talk a lot more about that in future videos, more time. But just off the top, what do you do to protect your energy in a season like this?
It's a great question. After the tragedy we experienced with the kids at the shooting at the school, I used to try to find ways to optimize and protect my energy. When that happened, it was a binary switch. Here's my thesis. I don't do shit that I hate for people who don't give a fuck. Period. I don't do things I don't want to do. I don't do things for people who don't care or don't have a significant mission in mind based on what they're doing. I don't do things for the price that people want me to do them for. I do them in correlation to the value of what I'll provide for them. And I do things on my terms. It's very much like someone might say, if you make an approach to somebody and you're like, hey, this is my proposal, this is how I'm going to do things. If they go like, well, adjust this and this. Of course, there's maybe 10 to 20% within reason, but I don't let anybody dictate the outcome of my life, my time, my focus. And I cherish my energy and protect it in a way now that's, again, binary, but fortified in a way. And so I have an unconscious set of rules. So when it comes to my energy, I have an unconscious set of rules as to how I apply those. Your energy has to be protected at the highest level, and you have to have a depth of understanding of yourself. This is why I'm so hellbent on personality assessments and professional assessments and energy assessments and motivational assessments. Socrates said it best, a life that is unexamined is not worth living. You have to identify the areas of your life, audit what you do, how you do it, for how much you do it, for who you do it, for how you do it, whatever. Those have to be consistently audited just because you spend the most amount of time typically in your work. There's another scoring system that I have, which is like, one of them is, am I being invited into this? This is the way I protect my energy. Am I being invited into this opportunity? Because if I'm not being invited, that means I'm initiating, which is opposite of how I'm supposed to function. There's this saying in human design that's specific to projectors, which I'm a projector. 20% of the population are projectors, and just as an example. So 1 out of 5 people you bump into work this way, which is we have to wait for the invitation. We have to get an RSVP to help someone succeed in life, relationship, work, whatever. And so I learned a few years ago about this structure, and that doesn't mean that I sit and hide and become irrelevant if I'm not being asked to do something. If I'm not accessible, then no one's going to know to even ask me. But you'll hear, I talk a lot about asking for help is the greatest compliment you can ever give somebody. Why? Well, because it initiates the opportunity for them to share their gift, their God-given gift with you. If you don't ask for help, then what you're assuming is that you can do it all on your own. Can Michael Jordan do it all on his own? No. Can LeBron do it all on his own? No. Can any high performer, can any artist do it all on their own? No, no one can. It's just the human condition. It's the ego keeping us in a protective mode, a sense of self-significance that says, I don't need help. I don't know where in the journey of psychology or childhood development we stop asking for help, but I'm assuming it's part of our individuality when we get to a point of wanting to like do things on our own and be responsible. But that doesn't mean that you don't ask for help. When people don't ask for help, it robs someone like me of the opportunity to do something great for them. Those are some of the elements that I've learned around my energy. Am I being invited into this? I also have a great sensing ability that's rather intuitive, and that's where I make my best decisions. I actually started writing a book. It's called The Intuitive Entrepreneur. I haven't picked it up in probably about a year, and I need to get back on it. The Intuitive Entrepreneur talks about how to make business decisions from a place of sensing. This is not feeling. This is not knowing. This is sensing. Spidey senses. It's deductive reasoning, pattern recognition, like understanding what decisions are best for you. You're not going to get it right every single time, but most people override their inner authority, meaning that sensing of like, I can feel this thing out, smell it, touch it, feel it. I can sense it. If the feeling is not internal, it's like the external molding of what this thing is. Oh man, I can sense a wrecking ball coming from this, or I can sense this is going to be really good for me. And that key word is important. It doesn't matter if it feels good. That could be my emotions tricking me. It doesn't matter if I know, because my intuitive prowess has to do with life's intuition, not my intuition. I can tap into the field of collective intuition, of other people's shared experiences of that person, if I slow down enough to actually assess it properly. So that's another way that I do it. Also, I have a spreadsheet that I use, and I quantify energy levels of like how I feel energetically, like how much energy it's giving me on a scale of 1 to 10. And then I'll also put the profit potential next to it. So is it a $9 an hour task? Is it a $10 to $99 an hour task? Is it $100 to a $999 task? Or is it a $1,000 an hour plus task? And I can measure those because I've done that for years. I can measure that and start figuring out where the things are that give me energy versus the things that don't. A life that is unexamined is not worth living. That also goes for your work. That's how I've been able to continue pivoting in different seasons of challenge. You go through things like a pandemic and you have to just figure out the next step. I've done that sequentially, going from completely conditioned and burned out. I do things the way that I want to, how I want to. And I get the craziest shit that happens. Just yesterday, a dude hits me up. I have a sales call with him. And it says in his form that he filled out to collaborate with me, where'd you find me? And he put Reddit. I'm like, Reddit? I didn't even think I have a Reddit account. I posted one thing in Reddit, in the sales Reddit channel, and answered a question that said, I'm really struggling to find a consultant within my industry. Does anybody know or have access to different types of experts who are in non-traditional industries? Hey, I'm super connected to a lot of really amazing people. I'm happy to help if you want an introduction to somebody. That dude booked a call with me and said, I want your help. The craziest thing about alignment and how that applies to energy and how it's protected, when it's protected, supernatural things happen that I can't explain, like getting leads off of Reddit, but I can run Facebook ads every single day for $100 a day and not get one in 7 days. So it's fascinating how all that works, but I've learned to just trust it, trust the synchronicity, trust the energy, trust that if I'm working on myself, if I can have a self-reflection, the world is a mirror to what I feel about myself. So I have to protect my energy. If I feel like shit, if I wake up and feel like shit, if I feel depressed, if I feel overwhelmed, if I feel frustrated, all the world's going to do is amplify the truth of that. But when I feel excited and energized, and I feel like my contribution matters, and I can look myself in the mirror and be like, you're doing better than you think you are, guess what the world says? The same damn thing, but 10 times louder.
Yes.
It's true.
Yeah. Now have you brush your shirt off just a little bit?
You got some Cheetos on there?
Yeah. Oh man, that was such a good answer. That was a great answer. That's where swap point two. We got like 10 minutes.
Yeah.
How do you keep finding joy? This far-ranging question. But how do you keep finding joy even in a tough time this last 2 weeks? Because you're a joyful person. One thing is, I don't walk in and go, oh, God, I have to see Nick. Fuck.
Yeah. It's funny. I was just thinking about that actually this morning because there's a guy on Bo's team. His enthusiasm is contagious. I really appreciate Joe because every time I talk to him, he's excited, he's enthusiastic, he's encouraging. but the guy is just always positive. And I was thinking of in reflection of that, I was like, that's awesome. I actually texted the CEO and I'm like, I just want to let you know, Joe, just the way he shows up, dude, the guy's just got something special about the way that he chooses to be. He was really appreciative of that. And then I had a moment of reflection, because this is very rare for me to have these types of moments of reflection, because we all can be self-critical. But I got this prompting of, that's how people see you. And there was a level of accountability that came with that, of like, oh, how would I experience my work if Joe was doom and gloom and frustrated, even though he's got his hands on a million things, running 1,000,000 miles an hour and holding a $50 million a year business together, trying to grow it to 100 million. How would I feel if he didn't show up that way? You're going to be a positive force of good, or you're going to be a negative, draining force of bad. Neutral is irrelevant. That people who are neutral, you don't feel one way or another, so it doesn't change anything. But if you can be contagious, which I know is a part of my unique design, I'm like a virus. If I want to go viral amongst people, what for? Encouragement, enthusiasm, excitement, positivity, optimism. Those are the things that matter to me. Not every day is easy. There's certainly a lot of days where you're up against a wall, you're up till 2 a.m. and you're up at 5 a.m. and you just got to work it out. But joy, to a certain extent, is a choice. I'm not always joyful. I try to retract and be alone because I don't want to infect people with whatever it is I'm going through. Unchecked, unfiltered is my personal responsibility to sort those things out. The good news is I've learned how to do that in minutes and moments now, and not for weeks and months. It's the battering ram of being emotionally open to lessons of life. You end up learning over time that it has to be done differently. And I also have stopped seeking validation through the way that I feel. And I have chosen to have belief systems that are much stronger, which change my feelings to be in context. I'll give you an example. Hardest example that I can think of. But when my kids went through the school shooting, I had to find a way to get to the other side and say, this is good. It's good that this happened, which is fucked up. I had to find a way, like a defendant and a prosecutor, I had to get on the other side of that chamber and go like, I got to see it from the other point of view. Why and how possibly could this be good? Well, my kids beat death. What else can they accomplish in their life? Well, that's a fucking fascinating perspective. And if I wouldn't have forced myself to try to see things from a different angle, I wouldn't see how resilient they are. I wouldn't appreciate the level of resilience. I wouldn't appreciate the small moments where I'm driving my daughter home from her Broadway class going like, thank God she's alive. So it offers a completely different look on things. And a lot of times we're just afraid to step over into that other side to view something from a way that can challenge our current beliefs. But we've got to find a way to do it. We have to. And that's our responsibility, just like with faith. The people who have the most depth of faith or depths of their belief systems are the ones who have tested it across many other core philosophies or different perspectives. Not the ones who just say, if Jesus said it, I believe it, and I don't care what you say. It doesn't work that way. Like, you have to find a way to observe around the thing. And if your faith can hold, then my God, you are a person of valor. Because you've inspected it, you've tested it, you've tried it, you've looked at it from multiple different angles, only to find a seed of truth that's undeniable to you. That's unbreakable faith that will last you for a lifetime. And that can go in any circumstance or situation in life.
That's right. All right. Brought time for one last question.
Yeah.
So, a call today, a sales call. Mm-hmm. How do you get your mindset in place to go into a meeting like this?
Unconscious competence. I did an assessment on my calendar. I was using the new Google Calendar plugin on Claude AI. I said, how many meetings did I do in 2020? Because I remember like that was a year where like business just disappeared overnight because of COVID, and then I had to try to figure it out. 1,600 meetings in a year. Actually, it was in 9 months. 1,600. Like, most people don't have any concept of the intensity of what that is. That's client meetings, sales calls, like you just put them all together. That's how many individual meetings were on my calendar. It was 1,636 meetings in a year. I said, what I do the next year, it was like 1,380. And I'm like, Jesus, like that's insane. So a lot of times when I'm going into important meetings, I prepare enough so that I show up and I won't trip on anything that's asked or needed or whatever. Like I prepare enough to be solid. AI has been incredible for that because it can just do all the intellectual heavy lifting. And as an intuitive person, it's like, I want to close my eyes and meditate for 20 minutes and go into the stratosphere. But that's where I actually solve real problems and get things done. It's like defragging a computer. I don't even know how to explain it, but just like Bitcoin is a new energy system that solves complex math problems and transactions in order to create currency, you'd be like, what in the matrix? And I'm like, yeah, I know. That's the same world I'm a part of though. It's like I have to deal with some of the primary function of the world that we live in where my operating system does not naturally function that way. But in preparation, what I'll do is, number one, whenever we have an initial call with somebody, I always record it because I never want to miss a detail about something that they said when I go to the stage of creating a proposal. I always record the call. After I record the call, I'll analyze it through AI and establish all of the key factors that were talked about. I'll send it to them and then I'll hold it on to for myself. And typically if there's a second call, then I'm reviewing those elements and also then merging what that call summary was and what they want completed with what I believe is the best approach to solve whatever problem they have. And that's how I create a proposal and I have a framework to do it. So I take the call transcript, I take my notes about what the solution should be, and I merge it with the proposal document and it writes the whole thing for me in about 30 seconds. So that's how I do, here's exactly what we're going to do. Here's what a win looks like. Here's the stages, methodologies, and deliverables. Here's what your life was like before. Here's what your life is going to be like after. Here's how much it is. Sign it, we'll be done. There's two things that I focus on whenever I'm collaborating with somebody. And with this opportunity, it's for a celebrity. It's in the reality TV, YouTube, vlog kind of lane, which is nothing that I've ever done before. But I just trust that, again, I have a bedrock of foundation on belief. In my human design, it talks about me being a screenwriter. That's my highest and best use as a person, as a screenwriter. I don't actually know if I know what that means. So I looked it up and I remember looking, it's like Christopher Nolan, these other people like create these like incredible movies and plays and storylines. And I'm like, wow, that's the highest and best use. Then I'm in that place of crafting narratives. My unconscious ability is to craft a narrative about a lot of things. I just want to tell that in the most truthful, authentic, and powerful way possible. The way I prepare for sales calls, here's my belief. Your internal state determines the story that you tell yourself, which will determine how that sound goes. So the internal state, I like to be calm, collected, no meetings before it for at least half an hour, no meetings after for at least a half an hour. And I like to show up confidently with expectation and competence. If whatever I'm saying I want to do for that person or whatever we're conjoining on, I'm looking for resonance. I want to resonate like two tuning forks. If those things can vibrationally align and have resonance, it feels good for me. I'm sensing that it's a good thing. It feels good for them. Their belief is that it's good. My last check is, do we have the competency to do this at a 10 out of 10? If we don't, I'll either be very honest with them and say that we could kickstart you, but we're probably not the full solution for you. Or I'll say it's just not the right opportunity for us. It's very hard for me to turn on opportunities. I certainly have, but I don't know if anything outside of price has been the things that I choose to reject. You know, if some of the financial elements work out and it makes sense, then I have to. But sometimes there's also projects that are just really fun and I don't care about the financial implications. And that's where I have to be the most careful. Those are the things where you get a sinking hole in the boat. You've got to be mindful of that. I focus on my internal state, calm, confident, secure, knowing who I am, what I'm here to do. I focus on the story that I tell myself, that I'm capable, that I'm strong, that I'm smart. I'm surrounded by people who are pillars of my life. These are core beliefs that I say every single day. That determines how that sale process goes.